Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Aging and Spirituality podcast. It's another Monday, and I'm Kathy Lee Taylor, and this is
Chris Jensen.
And we're very happy to be with you again. There's so many interesting things to be talking about in the world that yoga can really, really help you with. I hope by listening to us, you're getting some tips and ideas about how you can handle all the chaos and the darkness that's happening in the world right now and make your world a place of light. And a lot of yogis, people that are interested in living in higher consciousness, at higher levels of awareness, they are naturally light bearers. They are people that want to be living in the light, sourcing the light, being in connection with their inner self. And of course, responding to the world in a way that you're not adding to the chaos. That doesn't feel comfortable for somebody who has studied yoga for a long time. We want to be responsive in a way that we can change energy that is not conducive to what is true about the world. And really, that's what we focus on as yogis: truth, beauty, and goodness, which is what makes the universe go around. So I'm going to let Chris just talk a little bit about truth, beauty, and goodness. Those are concepts that we really love to have in our lives.
Well, one of the things that can make your life a lot better very quickly is by expressing what we call in yoga the intrinsic values. And intrinsic values are when we do something for its own sake. So let's talk about truth. You want to express truth for its own sake, not because someone's going to say, hey, you're a truthful person, or hey, it'll get you ahead in life. Just express truth for its own sake. That will do a lot of things for you personally, not only enhance the situation you're in, but you'll find yourself with a lot more energy. We call it Shakti, or spiritual energy. And one of the main ways to have more of this dynamic spiritual energy is to express these particular values. And I'll tell you an interesting yoga story.
Okay.
In India, he was at a train station and he was very honest, but everyone else at this train station was very corrupt. And so they were going to be investigated. And they were putting pressure on this guy not to tell the truth when he was asked questions. Well, he just couldn't do this. He was a devotee of Swami, and I don't remember the Swami's name, but I'm going to say Swami Rama, just making that up. And he had been told that his main practice that was going to help his life was to be truthful, to practice truth for its own sake. So when the investigators came, he was honest and told the truth. Well, all the other people there ganged up and said he was the one that was doing the corruption. And so he lost his job, and his family left him, and he's thinking, what did I do? I tried to speak the truth and all this is happening. Well, he has to go before a judge now. And he goes before the judge, and the judge asks him a question. And he said, well, I have to tell the truth because Swami Rama, he's my guru, and he told me I have to tell the truth. And the judge said, oh, he's my guru too. And he set him free. He set him free because he knew he was speaking the truth. Now, this is a story to explain something. You may not see the result in the moment when you are truthful for its own sake, but the universe will provide for you. It will come back. There will be an upliftment. That's what the Shakti is all about.
Well, okay, this is something that I really want to ask a question about, because I can remember being about 18 years old and put into this situation that was a weekend seminar situation, and somebody was trying to bully me into changing my mind or my position on something. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen. And everybody in the situation, this was a test of some kind, but everybody in the situation changed, conformed, did whatever they could to get out of the place where this guy was literally standing over them, berating them, and
Yeah.
trying to bully them into. And I just held my space. I just not, you're not going to affect me. You're not going to bother me. And I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. I just knew that I was holding on to the truth. Well, it turned out that was the whole exercise, right? Well, I was the only person that actually got a pass on the test
There you go.
because I didn't veer off what
Right.
that truth
Right.
was. And I think, you know, it was one of the starting points in my life when I realized, okay, you're not so dumb. You know, like there's something going on here that's working for you, right? But you know, I can remember so many points in my life that could have been transition points where holding on to and telling the truth was the thing that determined what would happen to me next, and whether I would grow in the situation or whether I would be held back on a spiritual level. I mean, in terms of my own personal growth. I mean, there was a whole process of learning to discriminate, you know, what is the truth? And as you're doing that, you're really learning what makes the universe tick,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
I mean, the truth makes the universe tick. You can, if you follow the truth, it will take you back to your inner core every time.
Every time. Every time.
Every time. So that's the point that I really wanted to make for people who are listening. Why should I stick to the truth? It's so easy, you know, to lie. It's so easy to dodge. It's so easy to try to get out of a situation that is uncomfortable for you by just, you know, faking a little bit of the facts, that kind of thing. I can't tell you enough, if you really are committed to growing, if you're really committed to being, you know, on a spiritual path, follow the truth as close as you can manage, because it literally will step you up in that way.
Yeah, it's so true. I'll tell you an experience I had early on in the yoga path, where there was this, we were all helping out at the yoga center as volunteers, and something came up, and I don't even remember what it was, but I admitted, I said, hey, you know, this is my fault. I didn't drop this off at the right time. Nobody was willing. Everyone was pointing fingers at other people, and everybody wanted to look good in front of Ramakrishnananda. And so I said, no, this was my fault. I did it. And he didn't say anything to me at the time, but previously he had told me about some character flaws that I had that I needed to work on. And so I had a chance to talk to him sometime after this. And basically he said to me, oh, those things are all gone now. Just by willing to admit that you made a mistake and tell the truth, he said, you've made huge spiritual progress.
That
Yeah,
is the opportunity, when you're willing to face the truth, face the fact that you do have some character flaws that you got to work on and they need to be changed. And we all got to go through that. That's where the challenge and the opportunities come in, you know.
we all make mistakes, and that's how we learn, you know.
That is how we learn. Yeah. And it makes me wonder too, because I've always thought, you know, that the idea of truth, beauty, goodness comes from the Hindu philosophy. And don't ask me the spiritual names. I can't remember. Is it Satchidananda? No, it's not Satchidananda. That's bliss. Anyway, the reason I wanted to bring up the differences between those three is that I often find that when I'm talking to people and I'm coaching them, that they will gravitate to one of those or the other. Like me, it's all about the truth. I mean, I can appreciate something beautiful. I see a beautiful flower, you know, beautiful day, whatever. I appreciate it, but it's not the thing that pushes me along. You know what I'm saying? It's not the thing that's, you know, or pulling me back into my center. Truth is the path that I've really been traveling. So talk a little bit about, say, somebody, because I can think of somebody that really resonates with beauty. What is their spiritual path like?
Yeah, well, that's very interesting, because because of our natures, we're all different. One of these is going to resonate more than the others with most people. I mean, ultimately, we want to be practicing all of them, but they will resonate. Someone who is really practicing beauty for its own sake is generally a very heart-centered person. That's not always the case, but generally that flows out of the heart chakra. I met a photographer, Brett Weston, famous photographer years ago.
Right.
And,
Okay.
it was very interesting because he said that for many years he was very, very poor. He said, I just could, they wanted me to photograph catalogs or do these, promotional things. I couldn't do it. I just had to photograph beauty.
Right.
And he would get up when the light was good early in the morning, sleep during the day, and then go out when the light, just because he had to be around beauty. And ultimately he became a very famous photographer. I mean, he said he was so poor sometimes that people would give him photography paper for a Christmas present.
Well,
But he just couldn't do anything but beauty. And of course, in the end, it all came back to him.
right.
He showed me a photograph and I said, oh, how did you catch that light? And he looked at me like I was an idiot. He said, that's 3 seconds before the dawn.
Right.
So
But interesting, this story. I mean, was he taken care of in his life in terms of, how we all got to have a job and I mean, was his focus on beauty something that like, obviously he couldn't get away from it. It was who he was. But was the rest of his life in balance or?
um, he I mean, he became a very famous photographer,
Oh, okay. So
very successful
yeah.
because his photographs were so beautiful. He was
Wow.
capturing a beauty that just resonated for him.
Right.
And, when I saw his photographs, I mean, I'd seen them in prints and pictures, but when I saw them at his house, it was like, it would knock you out. They were so beautiful. And, he became extremely successul. But
Mhm.
even in his success, he was still only interested in making
In the beauty.
in the beauty. That's
Well,
all he was interested in.
that is very interesting. So, oh gosh, so let's compare that to somebody who, let's say, their focus or their what draws them is the goodness.
Mm.
Maybe that's more of a service oriented or kind of a karmic yoga person. I don't know. What do you think?
Yes, goodness is very service oriented. It's also typically relating to someone who's very dominant in the third eye. But these things are not exact. Like
Yeah.
it may be, your nature, you may be a heart-centered person and you may be really into karma yoga service. They mix and
Right.
match, but these are just some general things. But if you think about someone like Gandhi,
Right.
he
It was
did,
goodness.
it was all about goodness for him. And he freed a country with it, talk about,
Yeah.
results,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and, goodness is all about choosing to do good for everyone concerned.
Right. All about action.
It's about action.
Well,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's good, yes, none of this is set in stone. We're not saying that, everybody is exactly the same with these characteristics, but it does kind of give you an interesting purview into who you are, and why you tick and why you do what you do.
Mhm.
Like, again, I can appreciate something beautiful. I do acts of goodness, but man, if you drill down on me and put me on the spot, I'm going to go to the truth every time, So
Mhm.
it's kind of interesting. You get to understand who you are.
Yes.
So, okay. So truth, beauty, goodness. I love that subject. We could talk about that forever.
Mhm.
Um, One of the things that I get a lot of in coaching is dealing with people who are empaths that are very sensitive in the heart nature. They want to live with an open heart. They feel very vulnerable, and it's often hard for them to be in connection with other people, especially people that have what they feel to be mm, I was going to say negative energy, but that's probably the right term. Scary energy, negative energy, bad energy is really hard for people that are empathic. And I find people that are empathic are actually not really good at grounding their energy. If they can, take the moment to just ground from the third chakra down into the earth and connect to that, more feminine nature, that mother nature, then they feel a lot less vulnerable and a lot less unsafe in those kind of situations. But I thought maybe you could just say a little bit about how we use empathy when we feel threatened. How do we keep our hearts open when we're feeling really vulnerable?
Yeah, we should talk a little bit about the difference between empathy and compassion.
Yeah, good idea.
It's very important to move from empathy to compassion. Empathy is basically feeling for another person, feeling their feelings and what's going on.
Right.
Compassion, on the other hand, is feeling for others and doing something about it. Doing
Okay.
actively, it's actively doing something. It may be just sending them love and light or a prayer, but it's very important that you translate into compassion.
Okay.
Passion is really what will keep your heart open and keep you, keep your heart open, but at the same time, you're not absorbing the other person's energy.
Right.
It's not any of our jobs to take on other people's feelings.
Okay. But wait, so you're saying to move to a level of compassion instead of just staying in empathy, that requires the person to make a connection, an energetic connection, right?
Right.
So if they're feeling vulnerable and the energy is not good, how do they move into that compassion? Or can they just like ignore it, or what do you do?
Well, so if you're in a situation where you're with someone else and you're feeling very, very vulnerable, one of the things you have to do is center in your own vibration. Uh, you're getting lost in their vibration,
I
basically.
see. Okay.
And
Okay.
so one of the things we do is an aura tie down, where you bring your hands together in front of you and behind you, you visualize a sphere of light above your head, white light just pouring down, and you bring your hands together in front of you. I'm going to just scoot back and do this. And
Sure.
behind you like that, back in front of you, and
An
just
aura tie off. Yeah.
right, and aura tie off. And that helps you to consolidate in your personal energy. And when you do that, you'll still have an open heart. You'll still feel for these people, but you can then move into compassion. And once you move into actively doing something for them, then you're not lost in it. You'll still be
That makes a
vulnerable.
lot of sense.
You still have a feeling of vulnerability, but you won't be taking in their stuff.
Right. Well, and for our listeners, really take in what she just said about that, because of all the stuff that's going on in the world, in the politics, it's so easy to get up in the morning, especially with this war in Ukraine. That's where we are right now. Um, and looking at the news, it can be so heartbreaking. It can be just so devastating. And if you have any level of empathy, you are crying for these people. It's heartbreaking. Um, and you still got to go about your day. So, I pay attention to it in a way that I pray. I let my heart feel what is happening in the world, not to be ignoring it. No, I may even get ticked, just like, oh my God, what is going on in the world? Like, this is insane, crazy stuff. But I
Yes.
don't stay there. I then move back into, okay, I got a full day ahead of me. How can I keep shining my light, which is what this whole topic is about? What are some of the ways that I can keep spirit flowing through my heart? One of the things that I think I said to you up front, we were talking offline about this, is I wanted to show people how they can turn around habitual thoughts in their head and respond to them in a way that they can enter right back into the centeredness, enter right back into expressing light, instead of getting caught up. And this is a great example, in the news, in the war, in the politics, in the craziness that's going on right now. So can you give us an example of how to do that?
Yeah, I was watching some news about the Ukraine, and I found myself immediately moved to tears,
Yeah.
and I felt a sense of frustration. And, clearly, and so uh, then I tried to step back and say, okay, what can I do here? Obviously, I can't go there and fight for them. That wouldn't do them any good. but
Yeah.
but but I can send them love and light, because I believe that that helps people. I know that it helps people.
Okay.
And so, I might do a prayer for them. I might do a yoga practice where I raise my hands and I chant Om, and I try to send my heart's love and light to them. Uh,
Right.
I could make a small donation. I could do, there's a number of things that I can do that
Right.
help me to move forward. Helps me to move into a more compassion place. And
Yeah.
once I do that, then I can move on. It doesn't mean I forget about them. The next morning they're in my prayers again,
Yep.
but, you know, but
From then on in, I mean, if you readjust yourself and get back into that compassionate place and into a place where you can express love no matter where you go,
yeah,
at least you're not adding to the chaos
right.
and the clutter of what's going on in the world, because you're going to run into it no matter what. So yeah, I think that's a really important thought. So like, for example, if I'm sitting at my desk and I think about the fact that, someone wants to sue me over some crazy thing that happened. And all I can think is, what is going on in this world? This crazy nut job is, like, just
Mhm.
pick up the phone and call me. Like, why would you have to do something like that?
Yeah.
And then I let myself process that, but I also take the moment to think, must be something going on in that person's world that's rocking their center, that's changing who they are in the moment, and I'm not going to fall into that. And so will mentally shift what I'm thinking about the person, let go of that attachment, like, I got to know what's happening here, I got to know what the outcome is, I got to know how to fix this, all of those things. Let go of the who, what, where, why. Be open and curious to what this situation or this thought is bringing you, but also responding to it with love, no matter what comes at you. Goodness comes at you, truth comes at you, whatever is coming at you, respond to it with love and see what happens, because oftentimes you can transform a situation right in the moment when you do those kinds of things. When you are responding with love, you can oftentimes transform what's happening.
You're so right. I'll tell you about an experience I had with a person that I had to work with. And this person was really obnoxious. I mean, everything that I would check off in what I call a jerk category, this person had. And he bullied other people, and and I had to work with this person. And I just would, it would just, I was like putting him into my obnoxious category and hadn't realized how much negativity that I was now expressing. And so we were in this situation where we had to sit there talking, and I remember in that moment, I could feel myself getting tensed up. And then in that moment, I just thought, okay, what would love do here? And in that moment, my heart expanded and I felt his pain. I felt, the
That person's pain, yeah. Yeah, that's
completely,
empathy and compassion right there.
right. It completely changed everything because I started reacting differently. From that moment on, I started reacting differently, and his behavior, and not that he was completely transformed, but his behavior was more palatable for me, and he was different. There was more
Yes,
love being expressed in the situation, because when I was reacting with tension and putting him in my jerk category, I was creating that same environment he was
right, right.
without realizing it. I'd gotten sucked in, But, the minute you say, okay, what does love want to do here? What would
Right.
love say here? Like I wouldn't put up with anything negative from him,
Right.
but I would respond in a more compassionate way, in a more
Yes.
loving way that was more constructive to everybody.
That really is the definition of compassion. When somebody's losing their mind, if you can hold the space of love and energy for them, oftentimes they will stop and go, why isn't this person
Right. They
like
yell at
freaked out on me, or
yeah,
exactly. And
yeah.
they just have that split second, or that enough time to just stop and go, wait a minute, maybe I'm a little off the track here and I can do something about it. And that's when the chance for transformation comes in.
Yes,
You
yes,
can
yeah.
encourage that along the way. So that's a really good way to deal with your habitual thoughts, and the stuff that's probably coming at people right now is coming faster and harder than it ever has. So it's even more important to be centered in spirit as much as possible. So is there anything else we want to say about turning around thoughts, or being in holding a space of real love for people? Excuse me, before we go here today.
Well, the other thing is to try and bring your energy to your heart center. especially if you're feeling frustrated. The heart center is along the spine behind the heart, or some people experience it in the front, but you can
Mm.
pull your shoulder blades back, and that'll help you to be open to it. And maybe you just, put your awareness there and mentally chant love, 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 or
Mm.
I like to chant Om just because it's a
Om is
sound that
great.
yogis have used for centuries, but whatever you're comfortable with. But if you can just get yourself more centered there, then it'll be easier for you to know what love wants to express.
Right. Yeah. And at very least, you won't take on their stuff.
Right, right. You're not going to take on their stuff. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can stay
Right.
in that place, and they have the chance to be different. They have a chance to transform and get there if they really want to too.
Yes.
So sometimes it just opens up a great conversation. Like,
Right. Right.
they're like, what are you doing?
Right.
Well, matter of fact, I'd like to tell you.
What happened to
Anyway.
you?
Yeah, exactly. All right, my friend. Well, I'm afraid our time is up for this week. Everybody out there, we love you. We're holding a big space for you. We know it's a really creative, that was the Freudian slip. Chaotic time was what I was going to say, but it is also a very creative time. So make it a creative time. Make it a time where you flourish in getting to know who you are, where you get really good at connecting with your inner self and expressing love. Bye for now.
Bye. We'll see you soon.